Anybody who wants one, darling?
Hi everyone. Maybe we should get this show on the road, as Woody said. I'll give you all a minute to have a seat. So I'd like to welcome you all to the Darwin Sailing Club this afternoon as we farewell David John Woodhouse, or as we all called him, Woody. I'm Susan. I'm one of Woody's children, and I want to thank you all for being here today and taking the time to remember my father. Now, Dad wasn't really one for formal occasions, but deep down I know that he would be touched that you're all here today and that we're coming together to celebrate his life. I want to make a special welcome to his siblings who have travelled from Queensland and Tasmania to be with us today. We've got Vicky, Carol, Sandra and Terry, and I encourage you to take the time to introduce yourselves to them later on and to share some tales of the adventures that you might have had with Dad over the years. I'm sure they'd love to hear about it. We also have people joining us online from around Australia and Indonesia. So, you can't really talk about Dad's life without talking about Indonesia. So we'll hear more about that later today. It feels like we lost Dad very quickly. But I take comfort in knowing that Dad wouldn't have wanted to fade away. Instead, he kept the doctors at Royal Darwin Hospital very busy with a puzzle. Dad liked to challenge people. As a child, he encouraged me to be curious about the world and about the way things worked. One day he brought home this tiny red flashing light. It was nothing more than a battery and a couple of wires and this red flashing light. It was very small, but he told me that it only flashed when I was looking at it. And I spent what felt like years trying to catch that tiny beacon out, trying to catch it. I'd sneak into rooms, I'd turn off lights, I'd look in mirrors. But, looking back now, that was just Dad. He was a little bit mischievous. He was always trying to make me think. And fortunately for me, Dad's love was always like that beacon. It was constant and it was always there, whether or not you were looking for it or not. And today is an opportunity for each of us to come together and to remember who he was to each of us and to say goodbye together. And so to get us started, we do have a montage of some memorable photos of my father, Woody, and we're going to play them for you now.
Jeremiah Dixon, I am a Geordie boy. Glass of wine with you, sir, and the ladies I'll enjoy. Old Durham and Northumberland is measured up by my own hand. It was my fate from birth to make my mark upon the earth. He calls me Charlie Mason, a stargazer am I. It seems that I was born to chart the evening sky. They'd cut me out for baking bread, but I had other dreams instead. This baker's boy from the West Country would join the Royal Society. We are sailing to Philadelphia, a world away from the coldy tide. Sailing to Philadelphia, good surveyor Dixon, but I swear you'll make me mad. The West will kill us both, you gullible Geordie lad. You talk of liberty, how can America be free? A Geordie and a baker's boy in the forests of the Iroquois.
Now hold your head up, Mason, see America lies there. The morning tide has raised the capes of Delaware. Come up and feel the sun, a new morning has begun. Another day will make it clear why your star should guide us here. Sailing to Philadelphia, a world away from the cold time. Sailing to Philadelphia to draw the line. The Mason-Dixon line. The Mason-Dixon line.
Firstly, sorry I missed my cue. It's lovely to see all of you again here today, familiar faces. Now, my name is Cynthia. I'm standing here today to speak on behalf of Marcelina, also called Ma, to share the story of Ma and Woody's love encounter that eventually leads to that wonderful thing called marriage. It was around July 2007 when Woody went across to Kupang as part of the Darwin to Kupang rally, when they first crossed paths with each other. Then it just started from there. All the ingredients needed are there. Ma is a good-looking lady, but not a damsel in distress, and Woody just happened to lay his eyes on her immediately. And to Ma, Woody is of all wonderful, good-looking quality. He's handsome, intelligent, funny, and kind. There's nothing could go wrong at that moment. Woody then approached Ma to ask if she was one of the staff at the cafe at that time called Teddy's Bar, to which Ma said No. The owner's wife, by some coincidences, was Ma's friend who used to go to gym together. That didn't deter Wood either. He instead asked the owner's wife for a little help if she could invite Ma to a dinner with him. And to Ma's surprise, there was Woody right in front of her, down on his knees. In a perfect Indonesian, he said, "Bisa ka makan malam dengan saya?" Which is in Indonesian, "Could you please have dinner with me?" They had their first dinner at the restaurant called Nelayan, which is an Indonesian word for fisherman, where Ma was introduced to one of Woody's close friends, Ann Kemp. As many of us know, when you're in love, it's like watching the hourglass. As the heart fills up, the brain empties out. You can guess what happened next. Ma recalled how Woody frequently rang her and would love to take her out with him wherever they go. And for whatever reasons too, Woody seemed to have meetings in Bali every 2 months, which is perfect chance to see Ma. Over the course of just a few years, Ma and Tasha came to visit Woody in 2009, again in 2010 just by herself, and by 2012, they both realized that they go along so well with each other that the best choice for them is to get married. So when Woody asked Ma, she was up to cloud number 9. Woody went to see Ma's family the same year to propose her in front of her family. Now, someone wise out there once said that marriage is asking each other to walk hand in hand in a park. Some parts of it got a Disney theme park, a cottage garden theme, a fun park when you install your own roller coaster and enjoy that fun, but one always ready and never ask for a guarantee. Put simply, if you want a guarantee, it's best not to get married. You should just buy a car battery, guaranteed. Despite their differences in cultural background, faith, hobbies, and even their love language, that sometimes it was frustrating for both of them. For example, when Ma bought Woody a t-shirt and he wasn't that impressed, Ma couldn't understand why. But any other time when Ma came home with a bottle of wine, Woody was really excited. And when Ma came home with a bottle of wine that's slightly expensive, Woody will query, "Why would you waste so much money on a bottle of wine?" But given the fact that Ma wasn't a drinker, she can only ask for a suggestion from a salesman. And you can only guess, a good salesman only try to recommend the fine drink. So there you go. Now, despite all of it, it is undeniable that their love for each other is there for all those years. That's almost for 20 years. And that's what Ma and Woody's love life that I'd like to stand and talk on her behalf today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm Ailsa. Most people in Darwin know me as AJ. I'm another one of Woody's daughters. Thank you all for being here today. It's simply overwhelming seeing all of you here. My role this afternoon is to take all of us a little bit back, very much back to the beginning. David John Woodhouse was born on the 26th of September 1949, firstborn of Dulcie and Leonard, the oldest of siblings Carol, Terry, Vicky and Sandra and Anna. He enjoyed camping, fishing and sailing from a very early age, and he will always be remembered by his siblings for the familiar request of his mother, "Go and see what David is doing and stop him." He left home early. He left home young, but regularly visited his mother and kept in touch with his family, especially his paternal grandmother, Gladys Mildred, whom he loved dearly. As a young man, barely 20, he was already the guy to go to amongst his friends in Hobart when something broke. It was always said, "Don't worry, Woody will fix it." He could puzzle out all sorts of mechanical and electrical problems, displaying the curiosity that would keep him happily pulling things apart for the rest of his life. Following an electronics technician apprenticeship at the zinc refinery in Hobart, he moved briefly to Townsville and then went on to settle in Darwin in 1973. His passion for music was evident when, during Tracy, the one possession he chose to save was a tape deck shoved underneath his shirt. In the aftermath of Tracy, this is something I'm very proud of. In the frontier town of 10,000, he was there, like many others, helping restore the water supply and power to the town. He had a natural curiosity, desire to question and learn, and it never stopped. He was clever, deeply compassionate, and a little short-tempered at times. He built roofs. Oh, sorry, no, that's not true. He built houses. He replaced roofs. He installed and repaired dental chairs. He drank tea and red wine, probably from the same mug. He removed stitches from foreheads. He pulled teeth from giggling mouths. He understood the moon and the stars. He let go of the steering wheel while he was driving, quite often. He sent fleets of yachts on adventures north. He stood hanging off the balcony railings to watch jets fly overhead. He collected eggs and slaughtered guinea fowl. He fed many of us in more ways than one. He lived life his way, and he lived it fully. Each of us holds a piece of who Woody was, part of a richness and complexity that no one person could ever fully unravel. He taught me so much about the world, the stars, and the universe. He was charismatic and charming to the end. After all, who else do you know who had a dinner table made from wood, harvested by moonlight from an impounded Indonesian fishing vessel by way of chainsaw? One thing I know for sure, never did you feel so warm as when you felt the light of Woody shining on you. I love you, Dad. Thank you. Peter Bracco, where are you? Just leave him there. No, that's just me.
Hi, I'm Peter Bracken, aka Bracco. I've been asked to say a few words about Woody, a funny story or something, and I just have struggled to work out what I would say. A lot of what AJ's just come up with were the sort of things going through my mind. He was a very complex guy. He was as frustrating as all hell to have as a crewmate, because often on a Saturday night the military would have him out fixing all of their gear all night when they were having exercises and whatnot. And then he didn't want to let us down on a Sunday on sailing day, so he'd come out and then promptly fall asleep in between tacks. So you'd have to wake him up. Woody, we're about to tack. Okay. But Flinty often had to turn around and throw something at him because he still wouldn't wake up or be ready for it. But that was what it was. He was a very complex character, He just put his hand to anything that even he thought was not right, even if you didn't know, and then he'd fix it and you wouldn't have a clue how he fixed it until you went to use it the next time and you went, oh, shit, what's gone wrong here? And because he's fixed it the way he thought it should be fixed, not the way you thought you operated it. So you had to go back and read his manual as to how to operate what you were using. So I love the guy dearly. He sailed with us for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. And I still have a lot of trouble getting my head around the fact that he's not here. And I don't know that it even feels real. So I can't really go any further. There aren't any funny stories to tell other than the fact that we all know Woody and what he was like, and we loved him with all of the complexity of someone who had 15 things going on in their brain at the one time, and he had the answers to all of them eventually. So here's to Woody. Now, John Punch, if Punchy's close by, he's going to give us some stories, sailing stories, and then John Liversley and Kerry Upini after that. So, cheers, Braco.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, children and grandchildren. Thank you very much for coming here today to celebrate and commemorate David's life. His family really appreciate your support. My name is John Punch. I met Woody in May 1975, shortly after I arrived here. Oh my goodness, what a hole you've left in the world. To me, he was always an enigma. He was the closest thing to a genius that I ever met. He had a brilliant mind, and as alluded to already, he could turn his hand to anything, as he did on so many occasions. Woody was charming. Just ask any one of the many women who fell in love with him over his life. He sparked loyalty, which was particularly shown by all the people who supported him in running the Darwin to Ambon race for so many years. My love of Woody was born out of sailing, and it's that particular slice of his life that I would like to tell you about. In the dry of 1975, we started sailing together on Brian Botchin's Triton 24 Temeraire. In August that year, we had the boat all loaded and ready to go in the Darwin to Dili race. However, in the week preceding the start, the Indonesians invaded East Timor and the race was cancelled. All the crews had been very excited about sailing to Dili, and all the boats were ready. The skippers got together and it was decided that we would race around Melville and Bathurst Islands. So at 10 a.m. on the Saturday morning, we set sail on the inaugural Round the Islands race. The race became so popular with the sailors that it was held annually for more than 20 years. Woody and I did quite a number of these on Temeraire with Brian Botcher, and then later on Safida and Sailor Blue. Woody became a great navigator, and so we were always confident in our position on those dark and windy nights. I'm not sure how long it took him to develop his navigational skills, but I do know that in 1973 he was sailing in Indonesia with his old friend Bill Jelly. They were in Kupang preparing Bill's trimaran for the trip back to Darwin. One morning, Bill goes off to the local market and comes back with a rooster. Woody's a bit taken aback by this, and he says to Bill, "Hey, mate, that bird won't make a very good chicken curry." And Bill replies, "David, this bird is not for the pot, because roosters always crow toward land. And when we're out there in the middle of the Arafura Sea, he will show us the way to Australia." I guess that was one of Woody's earlier navigation lessons. Woody and I sailed in a number of Ambon races. In 1980, we were on Safida, and we won the race on handicap. Libby joined us for the sail back to Darwin. As we departed Ambon, we got the propeller caught in some fishing nets. Brian Botcher had to go overboard with a knife to cut the boat free. Once we were free of the net, we cleared the harbour, hoisted the sails, and set course for Darwin. We were sailing in company with the yacht Golden Era. Golden Era was owned by Michael and Christine Maurice, and they had on board David Alderman and Andy Muirhead. We had organised regular radio skeds with them because they had very limited navigational experience. As darkness fell, it began to get pretty windy, so we put 2 reefs in the mainsail and set a small jib. It was rough, but we were comfortable enough, and we could see Golden Era's navigation lights, so all was good. After dinner, Libby and I were off watch, so we went below to get some sleep. Sometime later, we were suddenly awakened by a very loud cracking sound. We opened our eyes to see a large hole in the deck above us. I heard Botcher calling, "Punchy, get the bolt cutters." So I knew that we'd lost our rig. I got the bolt cutters and Libby and I scrambled into the cockpit. The wind was howling, the boat was rocking violently, and the mast, which was still attached to the boat by the goods stays, was plunging up and down in the waves and threatening to smash a hole in the topsides. Woody, being the strongest of us, took the bolt cutters and set about severing the remaining stays. After 10 or 15 nervous minutes, the mast was cut free and it sank. It would have taken quite some time for the mast to get to the bottom, because there, in the middle of the Banda Sea, the ocean floor is 5,000 metres deep. The 4 of us sat in the cockpit, obviously in a state of shock. However, we soon realised that we were uninjured, relatively safe, and we better get back on course to Darwin. Brian started the engine and we headed south towards home. Brian asked Woody to go below and call Golden Era. Woody goes down and turns on the radio, and we can hear him calling, "Golden Era, Golden Era, this is Safida, Safida." Then Christine replies, "Safida, Safida, I copy you 5 by 5. Woody says, "Golden Era, we have been dismasted. We have been dismasted." Christine replies, "Safida, we have been dismasted." Woody says, "No, you stupid woman, it's we who've been dismasted." Anyway, a few minutes later, Woody returns to the cockpit and relays to us that the same wild gust had also dismasted Golden Era, and they were too now motoring. A few hours later, we found water in the boat and discovered that the propeller shaft gland was leaking badly. It transpired that our fishing net entrapment had bent the propeller shaft. The further we went, the more the boat leaked, and by dawn we were all taking it in turns to continually man the bilge pump. By mid-morning we assessed that we were losing the battle. Woody radioed Golden Era and asked if they would come alongside and take us off. As there were no marinas in those days, nobody had any fenders, so we tied all our remaining sails in their bags to the side of Safida so as not to damage Golden Era. They came close, we threw them some lines, and the boats came together. We scrambled one by one onto Golden Era and then cast Safida adrift. We took just one bag for the four of us. It contained one change of clothes each, 4 passports and 4 wallets. We headed south, and just as we were losing sight of Safida, she sank. It was pretty cosy there on Golden Era, a 10-metre boat with 8 of us on board. So we rendezvoused with some of the other returning yachts at the tiny island called Daymar. Here Brian and Woody transferred to other boats before we all returned safely to Darwin. In 1987, Woody was invited to bring Terry Coulihan's yacht Wania back to Darwin from Ambon. It was our first Ambon on Cockatoo. Woody and I got together and decided we would take a leisurely route home from Ambon via Sulawesi, Flores and Timor. His crew were Lucille, his brother Terry, Kerry Yapini and Chris Kaplinger. My crew was Libby, our 3-year-old son Sam, Brian and Rosie Hallett and their 17-year-old daughter Sarah. We sailed west from Ambon and after 2 nights made the east coast of Sulawesi. We entered the Buton Passage, and after a rest stop, we spent 2 glorious days sailing south in the beautiful flat water of the passage. One day, a large Pelney ferry was steaming north, and we were amazed to see lots of the local kids come out in their dugout canoes and paddle like crazy to get under the bow of the ship so that they could try and surf his bow wave. We anchored at Baobao, the capital of Buton, and a number of canoes came out to greet us and see if they could sell us anything. Indonesia was well known for its earthenware water pots, and the crews had decided that we would purchase some. Now, despite the fact that Lucille was fluent in Indonesian, Woody, being the boss, decided he was going to do the negotiations. The boys paddled back to town and returned about an hour later. There was not a water jug to be seen. Instead, the canoes were full of cats. The cats were wet, soggy, and very unhappy about slopping around in the bilge of the canoes. Due to Woody's accent, the boys had thought that he was ordering cats for provisions. Eventually, the lads came back with water jugs and we purchased quite a number of them. To this day, the people of Baobao believe that Australian sailors eat cat for dinner. Thanks, Woody. Later in 1987, I was nominated to be skipper of the NT Spirit for the first leg of the 1988 Bicentennial Round Australia race. I immediately went to Woody and asked him to be our navigator. The other members of our motley crew were Brian and Rosie Hallett, Jenny Knox, John Liversley, Beau Wharton, Jeff State, Gary Mappis, Brendan Daly and Chubby McKell. We did a fair bit of training on the Spirit before she was trucked to Sydney for the start of the race, which was to be at 0800 on the 8th of the 8th, 1988. The day of the race dawned and the forecast was ugly. At 8 a.m. the gun sounded and we made a good start. We were briefly in front of Steinlager, the 25-metre trimaran from New Zealand, which eventually took line on us on every leg of the race. After we cleared Sydney Heads, we realised how ugly the forecast really was. Fortunately, it was a southerly and we were going north. We reduced sail and the wind got stronger and the waves got bigger. We reduced more sail and it got even windier and the waves got bigger again. By mid-afternoon, it was blowing 40 to 50 knots consistently. That's 80 to 100 kilometres an hour. The same winds that we had in the cyclone last November. At this stage, we had the mainsail completely off and the boom was lashed to the deck. We had the storm jib up and the Spirit was surfing along wildly at 9 and 10 knots. We were cold, we were wet, and probably frightened. The waves were mountainous. The wind was screaming, and every now and then a breaking growler would crash over the boat and fill the cockpit with water. The highest gust that we recorded before the wind instrument was blown away was 60 knots. I decided we'd take the storm jib down and sail the night under bare poles. The jib came down, but we were still doing 10 knots. Occasionally the helmsman would lose control of the yacht. We would broach, lay her on her side, and then a while later she'd right herself and then charge off at 10 knots again. Later that night, Woody comes out to the cockpit and tells me that a sailor called Jeff Curtis has been washed overboard from the yacht Boundary Rider, which is racing in the two-handed division. They were calling for vessels to come to the area to help search for the missing sailor. I went below with Woody and he showed me on the chart the position of the man overboard. It was on the inside of a reef, just out from Newcastle. The position was ahead and to leeward, so we could have diverted in there. I studied the chart for a bit and then said to Woody, "Sorry, mate, we're holding this course. I need to get this crew to the finish." At the 8 o'clock radio sked the next morning, it was confirmed that Jeff Curtis was still missing in the ocean. The 40-foot trimaran to St. Therese had pitch-poled and remained floating upside down with her crew clinging to the underside of the vessel. The Newcastle Water Police had dispatched a 16-metre launch to look for the missing sailor. The launch broached and sank. The police were airlifted by helicopter from the raging seas. The press were calling for the race to be abandoned and for the race organisers to be subpoenaed for allowing the race to start in the first place. It was certainly a radio sked I'll never forget. By the end of the second day, we only had 30 to 40 knots, so we broke out a little sail. The second night wasn't quite as wild as the first. Day 3 saw the conditions moderate some more and our morale lifted, but we were still wet and cold. On day 4, we set a spinnaker. We were a very happy crew when we crossed the finish line at Mooloolaba. After docking, we had to take absolutely everything out of that boat. There was not one bunk, one cushion, one sleeping bag or sail that wasn't soggy. The missing sailor, Jeff Curtis, was never found. I've got plenty of other adventures with Woody, but ladies and gentlemen, that tip of the iceberg is what I bring to you today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to say today goodbye to a good friend. I haven't been able to say goodbye in my heart until now, and I think this is a good time. I first met David, in the 80s, but I really got to know him when we worked together on the Sail Indonesia program. And it took a bit of time to get comfy with Woody because he always had 3 things going on at once in his head, and it took a while for anybody working with him to figure out just what bit referred to you. Anyway, who says men can't multitask? Woody was a prime example of that. Together with Dr. Alaji Salaso, David and he co-founded the Sail Indonesia program. And a major event in 2008, there were 138 participants' yachts that went to went to Kupang, sail Indonesia. And without those two people, particularly David and Haji Sudarso, the event would never have happened. But working with Woody soon developed into a solid friendship. I never met a kinder, well-meaning sort of person, even though sometimes he brushed people up the wrong way. His social interactions sometimes left a lot to be desired. But David was clever. He always had people that could cover. And his Indonesian counterparts were brilliant at that. One thing I want to tell you about that David was very, very low-key about, one of the things that he did was organise, support and run a scholarship scheme in Kupang. And what happened was he got the participants to donate money, and with that money he helped about 29 students that would otherwise have dropped out of school and not got an education to follow their education all the way through to university. And assisting David in that program was Miss Nita Liwangi and Shari Omatan. But David was the principal pusher of that particular thing, and it was a quiet source for its success. Working with Woody, and then as a mate of Woody's, I came across some of his foibles which took a lot of getting used to. When we were going to Kupang, it was always necessary to stay for an overnight in Bali. And in Bali, David would also always want to stay at one particular hotel. It was a very run-down hotel in Kuta, overlooking a Balinese cemetery of all places. One year I got there before him, so I booked him a superior room. And when he got the key to the room, he went to unlock the door, and the door handle fell off. David wasn't over upset by that. He just went and told the reception, and they came and fixed it. He went into the room, and he wanted a shower after getting off the plane, so the hot water system didn't work. So then he thought, oh, bugger that, I'll go and have a sleep. So I'll turn the air conditioner on and have a sleep. The air conditioner didn't work. All the time, Woody was calm as you could possibly imagine. Not a swear word, not a growl, nothing. So finally he called me and said, John, will you just go and ask them to get me another room? So I did that. We got him in the room next door. I took the key from the reception and gave it to Woody, and the key was the wrong key. We couldn't get into his new room. I've never seen anyone explode so explosively. But that's not the end of the story, because after we were coming back, I said to Woody, where are we going to stay in Bali on the way through, back home? He said, at the Nasty Malasti. What do you expect? That was Woody down to a T. The other thing I remember about David is his love of cups of tea and his love of masakan Padang. And he always used to want to eat in the most scruffy, dirty little places imaginable. And he'd always invite me. He'd say, John, come on, I found this place. It's really fantastic. And I say, Woody, no, I'm not going to eat there. You just look in the window and there are flies buzzing around everywhere. Eventually, I managed to get him to eat in some more salubrious places, but it took a lot of effort. Thinking about cups of tea, one of the last memories I have of David is when he was out doing his dental thing, fixing chairs and things. If he was in our area, he'd drop in and we'd have a cup of tea together. So, David, wherever you are, I hope they make a good cuppa. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Kerry Upini, and for me, these occasions are coming around a bit too often. But anyway, thanks to the family for inviting me to provide a few memories of the man that I grew to know very well. Unfortunately, when you're the third speaker, or fourth or fifth speaker, most of the good stories have been told. So don't be offended if I repeat some of them. I won't contradict any of them. It's all true. And I can vouch for the one about the cat and the pots. That is absolutely dead true. So let's talk about David John Woodhouse, otherwise known as Woody. Although it's a bit of a fog, I believe our paths crossed sometime in the 70s and continued to do so frequently until his recent demise. Probably our initial contact revolved around dentistry, which has been spoken about, and where I probably encouraged him to take an interest in the repair, maintenance and fault finding of dental equipment. Not only did he possess excellent practical skills, which I can vouch for, Woody was able to apply his brilliance in electrics and electronics to solve just about all the problems that presented. I guess getting Woody involved is one of my true contributions to dentistry in the NT. Thank you. From a fellow dentist, I would imagine. It was a widely held belief in Darwin that you couldn't run a dental practice unless you had Woody on side, and I think many will vouch for that. Anyway, Woody did have another job. He worked for Defence. That was his real job, and he had free access to all the bases. We often accused him of being a spy. Well, he never admitted to it, but then again, he never denied it either. So we'll let him rest from being a spy as far as we're concerned. We, on a personal level, we worked on quite a few projects together, not only dental, and he was never shy to point out my shortcomings. It usually went along the lines, you might know something about dentistry, and mind you, he did need dental care quite often from me. He said, but you know, sweet FA about anything else, especially electronics. My retort was always around, settle down, you hyperactive so-and-so. And, of course, things would just proceed as normal after that little interaction. Mind you, the day the dental chair we were installing was struck by lightning. That was truly a bonding experience for us both. As well as this, we developed a deep and enduring friendship. We lived nearby, we had young families, we had similar interests. I could mention here our poultry project. I bought a large incubator. Woody insisted on doing the incubation because it needed someone responsible, so he said. Hundreds upon hundreds of birds he raised. I called him the hatch master. I must mention here Marcelina's tolerance. She put up with the stench, the incessant chirping, and even sometimes was called upon to feed the little bastards. Then there was also the rambutan farm, one of my true follies in life. Woody took a great interest. He must have had an agricultural gene tied up somewhere in that potpourri of chromosomes that made the man. But it was an avenue for him to show his innovation. So as a result of this, I've ended up with some unique automatic irrigation programs and many other inventions that he thought I needed or should have. Now, you're all aware of Woody's skills and the dedication to sailing and, of course, his beloved sailing club. And you've heard plenty of it today, so I won't go on about that too much. But I did partake in one of his significant trips, which was mentioned. It was the cat pot trip. But I undertook with him to bring back Terry Coulihan's boat from Ambon. In those days, a GPS was where well-off kids went to school. But we had a sextant, a map and a compass, so we thought our navigation was all in hand. Then there was this particularly dark night where we made a line for these lights, believing them to be a city. After a while, we noticed that the lights were moving. Of course, it was a large tanker that had our settings on. Following this confusion and not being able to establish position, Woody suddenly called on us to drop the sails and drop the anchor immediately. So we did. Next morning, we awoke to see this huge volcano coming out of the water just a few hundred metres ahead of us. Maybe it was some form of divine intervention, but it was certainly impressive. It probably saved our lives. Thanks, Woody, for that one. Well, as I've spoken about before, it's appropriate here to talk about Woody's love of Indonesia and Indonesians. He spoke the language, apart from he sorted out the cat pot thing later on. Loved the people and contributed to the welfare of with some educational scholarships through Sail Indonesia. And of course, the love of Indonesians extended to marrying one, dear Marcelina. The solemn part. The last few years have been difficult for him. When the breath of brilliance stopped flowing, he knew it. But he kept going, and they kept calling for help. And he was always trying to help. That was the essence of the man. He did confide in me often in those latter years that he had to give up working. And he would even sometimes ask me to accompany him to a job, which is a bit of an admission. In summing up, my sincere condolences go to his family and to his wife, Marcelina. Many of us have lost a dear and talented friend who was always willing to give a hand. We can take comfort that he is now at rest after a difficult and confusing period. I would like to acknowledge here that many people have contacted me to pass on their condolences and memories of Woody. One of these is Anna, a German lass who worked for me as well as for the Sailing Club Bistro. I'd like to read the card that she wrote. It says, because she lives in Albury now, so she had to leave town for a man. A memory is a keepsake of time that lives forever in the heart. She goes on to say, I was so shocked and sad to hear about Woody's passing. What an amazing person and a remarkable life. I am so deeply sorry for what you and the Darwin community have lost. You are in my thoughts in this sad and difficult time. Love. Anna. So I would now like to say thanks, Woody, for the impact you've had on our lives. Valet, Woody, and thank you all.
Sorry, there was a little bit of cross-communication there. Woody, where are you? Thanks. Now, I'll just give you a quote in the words of Robert Frost, which I forgot to mention earlier, and then Carol is going to recite a poem for us. But Woody, what you didn't know, he actually liked poetry, and this was something that meant something to him. So, quoting the words of Robert Frost, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one travelled less by, and that has made all the difference. And I think you're right, Woody, he did travel down the alternate route on many, many occasions. Now, Carol, if Carol would like to step forward, I don't know where Carol is. There she is, way down the back. Carol's his sister and is representing the Woodhouse family.
can all hear me? Yeah, great. This is to my brother David. You were your own planet with your own moon and stars when I was born. Before your name was on my lips, my fingers reached out to touch, to trace. My eyes mirrored you, perhaps your echo. Already you were known. I wanted to be like you, smart and clever, yet critical, sharp. I was born with a different landscape, at odds with you, till my mother's 90th birthday, when to greet me, your fingers traced my lips. Grief is a sea shanty, visceral on a turbulent sea. The waves are fierce, monstrous. I pull the ropes, raise the sails. Muscle weakens, skin is torn. You are at my core. I am the shanty girl. I call the verse. There is no response. I take this journey alone. And this one is just called Elegy. I beat the djembe, skin to skin. An animal howls. We are a severed cord. Notes fall like shattered glass. An orchestra of grief. The cello wails. The low piano notes hang like the faraway moon. And I'm reading this one because my sister remembered that when we were living in Tasmania, David would come home from a camping trip and a fishing trip, and he would quote from this poem. So I'm reading it for that reason. And it's Requiem by Robert Louis Stevenson. Under the wide and starry sky, dig the grave and let me lie. Glad did I live and gladly die, and I laid me down with a will. This be the verse you grave for me. Here he lies where he longed to be. Home is the sailor, home from sea, and the hunter home from the hill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Is there anybody else who has got a very quick story or quip they'd like to share? Other than that, it will bring a close to this part of the ceremony. Just to let you know that there will be nibbles and food up the back, along with the bar is over here, so you'll be able to get yourself a drink and something to eat. At 6:29 tonight is sunset, and we will be looking to do a farewell toast to Woody as the sun goes down, and that means charging your glasses about 6:15, and not as the right of sailors would be to drink it straight down and then slam the glass down for a second. No, we're going to make sure everybody's got a charged glass at 6:25 if we're all in this area, and we will raise a toast as the sun goes down. So in between, there's plenty of chance for everyone to sit, have a chat, talk stories, have a look at the photos and that sort of thing. So, on behalf of the Woodhouse family who have travelled up here from Tassie, Carol, Wendy, Vicky, sorry, Zip, Terry, and who's the fourth one? Sandra, right, sorry, I didn't have them written down. Okay. To Woody's daughters, to Susan and her family, to Ailsa, to Lydia, wherever Lids is, I can't see her right here, Camille, and not forgetting Christopher, who unfortunately passed away some years back, to his wife Marcelina and her daughter Anastasia, who's over from Brisbane, and Albert, who is also here. And that, at this stage, concludes this part of the ceremony. Don't forget, 6:15 is when you need to be organising to get your glasses charged for the toast at 6:29. Thank you very much for your attention. Cheers.
I was a highwayman. Along the coach roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. The bastards hung me in the spring of 25, but I am still alive.
I was a sailor, I was born upon the tide. With the sea I did abide. I sailed a schooner around the Horn of Mexico. I went aloft to furl the mainsail in a blow. And the yards broke off, they said that I got killed. But I'm living still. I was a dam builder across a river deep and wide, where steel and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound. But I'm still around. I'll always be around and around and around and around and around. I'll fly a starship across the universe divide. And when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps I may become a highwayman again. Or I may simply be a single drop of rain. But I will remain. I'll be back again and again and again.
When you have children, they keep coming back. Yeah. for teenage years and boys more and more. Fits more. Come on.
How's things going in that premises?
Oh yeah. Turning all the chairs.
So how many chairs are you going to run initially?
Yeah, you got plenty of rooms there. Yeah, Kerry told me.
I think that's really good.
There's a couple of I think give it a really good best go.
I think Kerry must be happy.
Inside out there.
lovely name. Did you tell her about the Chinese business? That's the best. Well, we won't go. We won't go. Yeah, okay.
But I'm going to get some
And it's the ultimate Chinese whisky, isn't it? That's the best one I've ever heard. That's about representation, isn't Oh, right. Oh, well, well, when he I didn't know what to say, because he was the best dentist I've ever had by a quality on one. And anyway, I was in Adelaide and I broke a tooth. Anyway, my partner's dentist, a woman probably in her 40s, I was able to get into her, and I thought, she's just like Terry, really gentle, and I thought, how lucky. I didn't know what to do, because none of the others have been any good. I had been good, but yeah. So, well, yeah. Well, my first experience with the dental stuff that made me grow up was I used to play tennis with my dentist, this young bloke. He could have been probably 4 years older than me. Anyway, he took out 3 of my wisdom teeth, and then he went on holidays, and his partner, an older bloke, took out the last one. The last one didn't really hurt much, whereas the first 3 did. So life lesson straight was never eat your dentist. Never, ever, ever. Don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot. That is really stupid.